After conducting a full, exhaustive investigation of this incident on June 22nd, we've identified that a child, 14 years old, was brought to the edge of the pool by two patrons that had noticed the boy in trouble. Our lifeguard greeted him at the edge of the pool, removed the child from the pool, and the child instantly started vomiting. 3 guards joined our first responder and engaged with the child in order to make sure that his mouth was evacuated of vomit and actively expelled as he was actively expelling water. When 911 was called, obviously this was a frantic moment with an environment of urgency. And so multiple people, both patrons as well as lifeguards, were actively phoning 911 to notify EMS to come and assist a child in trouble. The child, after he expelled the water, was ready to resume swimming and talking and wanted to get back to the pool and swim. He was looking for his mother. We tried to contact the guardian. We could not find him, and so we elected to go ahead and send the child to the hospital to make sure, one, that they were safe, but without guardian approval or having a guardian at the facility, we thought that it was the best for all involved, so that's the way we proceeded. Now, in the aftermath of this incident, there's been tremendous amount of rough reporting, irresponsible analysis of what transpired, and brutalizing the professionalism of young professionals who work tirelessly at their craft in order to be prepared always for their job. In the weeks that have transpired, each and every one of these kids have been scrutinized by the media, by patrons that saw these reports on the news, and these kids have been questioned and abused unfairly to the point that in their same scenario, inexperienced people would have quit and walked away. These guys are committed, they're tough, they have nothing but the highest level of integrity, and you'll see they speak well for themselves. They know their job. They're poster board team members. The county, the commissioner, the community should be thanking them. They should be patting them on the back for a job well done, for executing their duties and the resolve they show in making sure that kids, whenever they're not watched by their parents, are ultimately and completely taken care of.
When the incident occurred, I was alerted by a few patrons, not exactly sure how many because it was a bunch of yelling, "Come here, come here, come here." I walked over, and as I'm walking over, I see 2 patrons grabbing the victim from out of the water. The victim came out. When I got to him, he was already being dragged out of the water. All I did was come and basically help lay his head down so that he doesn't hit the ground. Once he was on the ground, went through the proper procedures, trying to see if for signs of life, check, listen, feel. He wasn't really responding. I don't want to say he was unconscious. He was more like in a subconscious state where he was with us, but he was really disoriented. So I began checking him. I checked for a pulse. I did all the proper procedures. So at this point, I didn't get the response that I wanted to get at this time. So I might have rolled him over a little bit and gave him a hit on his back, and he began draining. Once he began draining from his nose and from his mouth. At this point, we just rolled him over on his side and had him in the side position for when you have a victim vomiting. So we had him on his side, and he was draining. And after draining so much, he began throwing up, just kept throwing up. I instructed somebody to call 911. Well, when we first got him out and I checked him, told someone to call 911. At this point, once he's throwing up, I have a couple of other lifeguards who come around to help. So I would say maybe 5 of us at one time. I know it was 4 of us that I know who actually physically touched the victim.
2 men pulled him out, and then as they was pulling him out, our lifeguard supervisor helped pull them out as well.
Okay, and then how long till you get there?
It was about 15 seconds.
But the only reason it took 15 seconds is because the lifeguard supervisor was tending to the kid, and then what did the lifeguard supervisor do that alerted you to get there?
He was waving and jumping up and down, trying to get someone's attention to call 911.
You saw that, is that right?
Yeah, I saw that, so I ran over there and helped assist.
Once you got there and you saw the boy was he already expelling water at that point?
Yeah, he was kind of like throwing up. That's why we put him on his side.
You're trained, how long have you been a lifeguard?
For about 4 years.
So when you see a kid throwing up, that's actually a good sign, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Why?
that means that he have a pulse and he kind of like breathing on his own, yeah. So he was trying to like bring the water up out of his system.
Why didn't you do CPR?
Oh, because he was throwing up. And you can't do CPR on somebody that's throwing up, or it'll just go back in his stomach.
I went down the slide and ran over there to where it was going on and started scooping the throw up out his mouth and rubbing his back and his chest and keep him conscious.
Why did you do that?
I did.
Have you been trained to do that?
Yes, yes, I am.
Tell me about that. What did your training tell you should do at that moment?
I mean, if a victim is choking or throwing up, you need to scoop it out of their mouth because they might not even be conscious, so it's not going to necessarily come out on its own. You have to take it out, and that's what I was doing.
Had you ever done that before?
I haven't had to, but I haven't had to, put it that way, but if I know what to do if I have to.
But you hadn't ever had it, no.
Yeah.
While you were doing that, what was the boy doing?
Blinking his eyes. He was really trying to get it out. He was biting my fingers. I think he had bit his tongue a little bit because there was blood in there, but so I was still scooping it out though. But he was biting my fingers and his eyes were flickering. He was breathing. It was shallow, but he was breathing.
And then what happened next? Did his condition improve?
Yes, all the throw up started coming out, like all of it. And then after all of it came out, he started saying, "I'm good, bro, I'm good, I'm good." And then we asked him his name, he gave us his name, and that's when the police showed up. And by that time, he was already talking and stuff, so the EMS came.
Was his mother there?
No.
Tell me about that. Did you ever see his mother?
I never saw the mother nowhere, ever. We was looking for her, any type of family members. Nobody came.
How long were you by that boy's side, would you estimate, that day?
About between 15 and 20 minutes.
So in 15 or 20 minutes, no parent ever came around?
No parent. No
Did that
parent.
surprise you?
It really did, because, I mean, if everybody is talking about somebody is drowning or somebody has drowned and you don't see your child, then maybe you should start searching.
And when you say everybody was talking about it, what do you mean by that?
I mean, the civilians and the lifeguards were trying to find his parents or anything like that, but nobody ever showed up.
How were they trying to find? Were they using a...
The lifeguards were using the blowhorns, but as far as like the civilians, they were just like helping basically, but we have a blowhorn.
Once he started talking, did he ever try to get up and leave or sit up?
Yeah, he didn't even want to go on the EMS really. Like, he was just like, I'm good, I'm good, I'm good. After he threw it all up, he was good.
You think he could have stayed there and spent the rest of the day there if he wanted to?
If you wanted to, yes, I do.
As soon as I approached the scene, the young boy, he was already out of the water on his side with 3 lifeguards tending to him as he was coughing up throw up in water, and he was adequately breathing. As I got down there, I started doing the back thrust movements to push out some of the throw up out of his throat and out of his mouth. Water was coughing up. He was breathing. His breathing wasn't steady, but as we continued to do the thrust back movements, and as my other lifeguard, she started to reach in his mouth and to remove some of the throw up so he can start breathing regular. And once we did that, he did start breathing regular and he was talking. While I was doing the thrust back movements on his back, he told me, first he tried to get up
And I said, no, you cannot get up. I was like, you have to wait till EMS get here. He was like, I'm fine, I'm good. And once he was saying it, you can tell that his breathing was calming down. He was fairly intact. He was responding, pupils normal, everything fine. He was normal. We was checking his pulse constantly, even though his pace was breathing a little bit fast, but it was very normal before when he was pulled out of the water.
Was he crying?
In the beginning he was, but as I started doing the thrust back movements and he started to try to get up and tried to speak to me, when he was saying, no, I'm fine, I'm good, I can leave. I said, no, sir, you cannot leave. You have to wait till EMS gets here.
I kind of disregard that because at least 4 or 5 days a week we do in-service. And as a matter of fact, on June 22nd, I think the day was, that morning we did in-service jumping off from the deep end chair into the water, saving the victim, saving the active drowning victim. So we practiced just that morning. And everyone did a great job with their skills. So I just kind of disregard that because I know personally that with the management team here, we're drilling them. Like I said, 4 times a week, minimum. So we do a bunch of lap swimming, we do a bunch of rescue, active submerged victim rescues, we do some CPR, EAP, pretty much everything in the book.
We do at least in-service at least 4, sometimes 5 times a week.
What's in-service mean?
In-service is preparation and preparing to respond properly in an emergency situation.
There's some report that a patron was actually doing first aid. Why do you think that report exists?
Because my uniform is different than the other lifeguard uniforms. It doesn't necessarily look like the other uniforms, but the young one, that was me. It wasn't a patron.
So tell me how you heard about this report.
Facebook. I was on Facebook and I seen it and I read the whole article, and it claims that the mother said that a young woman and two other people helped her child, but the young woman was me and the other people were the lifeguards. It was lifeguards, there was no patrons.
But the mother wasn't there.
Nowhere near. So she was basically just listening to what she heard from the other people that was just surrounding, because we had to keep telling everybody to get back. They was being so nosy.
So you didn't have this red shirt on?
No, it was a black sports bra.
Okay, so but the other guys had the red shirts
Yes.
that day. So, do you think there was just confusion?
Most definitely, because I mean, it was just a black sports bra and some red bottoms, so it didn't necessarily, and they don't say guard on them either, so it's not necessarily. It could be confusion, you know.
But your message to the people who write that on Facebook is
that the guards are the ones who saved the child. We did everything we could, so that's really it. You just don't believe everything you hear.
They don't understand why people are trying to turn this into financial gain. The comment repeatedly is, it's almost like 11 Alive wanted this kid to die so they would have something to talk about. Why are we being abused? We did our job by the book, and we did what our company trained us to do.
after seeing those interviews with those kids, were you impressed?
It's impossible not to be impressed by people who are real and their training takes over. There is nothing that you can script or get out of a kid that is just from their heart, and the real integrity comes through in these kids. They are to be congratulated and commended, not questioned and berated.